All right, everyone. Oh, Susan's not here. All right, well, we can start without her. Okay. All right, good evening, everyone. It is Wednesday, February 19th, and I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Township Board to order. It is 7:01 p.m. Clerk Shepard, if you could call roll for attendance, please.
Trustee Schaefer?
Here.
Trustee Hardy?
Here.
Trustee Aaron's?
Here.
Supervisor Brewer?
Here. And Trustee Romano is absent currently. Okay. And if I could have Trustee Schaefer please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Is there anybody that signed up for public comment tonight? Okay, Mr. Setz, if you would, please, if you could come to the podium.
At the May 18th, 2022 regular meeting of the Dundee Township trustees, there was an item on the agenda under new business. Quote, discussion approval of employee health insurance plans for plan year 7/22 to 6/23. During the discussion of the health insurance plan, there was a suggestion that the stipend paid in lieu of opting into the township's health plan be increased from $400 to $550. Also during the same discussion, Supervisor Thrower stated that she received a monthly stipend of $400, received health insurance through her husband's employer, and therefore could not vote on the increase, increasing the stipend to $550. When the vote was taken, the motion put before the Township Board of Trustees was, as reflected in the minutes, to vote, quote, yes to keep the same HMO, new PPO, dental, vision, life, stipend to increase from $400 to $550, unquote. There are several problems with this action taken by the Township Board. The stipend is not a health insurance plan as is generally understood, and the proposal to increase the stipend from $400 to $550 did not appear on the agenda for the meeting as required. In other words, it should have been identified as a separate item for discussion and approval, and it was not. Supervisor Thrower's statement that she could not cast a vote regarding the stipend in recognition of on her part that an increase in the stipend was something that she would directly benefit from. And 3, Section 9 of Article 7 of the Illinois Constitution is entitled Salaries and Fees, and subsection B of Section 9 reads, an increase or decrease in the salary of an elected officer of any unit of local government shall not take effect during the term when that office for which that officer is elected, unquote. So the question is a stipend for a fringe benefit considered to be salary? There's case law where elected officials voted to give themselves stipends for various reasons during the same term, claiming they were not salary, but were such things as increased duties, etc. Case law on those have been fairly unanimous that a stipend under those circumstances will still be considered salary unless a violation of the Constitution. Also instructive is a 1994 Illinois Attorney General opinion. The state's attorney in Ogle County had asked the Attorney General for opinion on whether the provision of a health insurance benefit for an elected township officer when that coverage was voted on and to become available during the officer's current term violated Section 9B of Article 7 of the Illinois Constitution. The Attorney General opinion was that such action did constitute a salary increase midterm. If Supervisor Thrower did receive the additional $150 a month, I guess she's fortunate there are no criminal statutes in Illinois for violating the Illinois Constitution. I had it checked. The remedy is to return the funds, which if she received the increase through the end of this month would be $4,800. With interest, it would be over $6,000. And I would also say if other elected officials receive the increased stipend, they should return the monies with interest to the township as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Always a pleasure, Mr. Setz. Any other public comment? Okay, very good. We'll move on to our reports. I'm going to go ahead and start with our Kane County Sheriff Department, since there's 3 of you here and get you back on the road. Oh, if you could come to the podium, thank you.
So good evening, everyone. Different faces from last time. My name is Santiago Hernandez. I'm the Dundee Township deputy for the area. These ladies behind me are cadet deputies. You want to introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about you guys and your program.
Hi, I'm Cadet Beavers with King County Sheriff's Office.
I'm Cadet Rivera with the King County Sheriff's Office.
Basically, we have many responsibilities that we do. We mainly help out deputies with whatever they need. We are their assistants. We also do handle some calls on our own so that we can get a lot of hands-on experience.
Great, thank
So
you.
that would be for their non-sworn personnel that handle situations that aren't requiring someone with maybe a few more tools that I have. For example, parking complaints, citizen assist calls, non-criminal cases. So it is a fairly new program.
Okay.
It does kind of model behind Aurora's and Levante's. So if you know people who are in the college age of 18 to like 21 roughly,
Yeah.
who are interested in the program, you can go on our website to learn a little bit more and perhaps apply to the position. That's canesheriff.com. So thank you, ladies. Another thing I wanted to point out for the month of January, within Lake Marriott, we had one reported roost burglary where an elderly victim had allowed subjects inside of the home who were claiming to be from a local utility company. Those two suspects then kind of went through all her belongings and had gone away with some jewelry. It is not common that I see it up here in Dundee Township at least. However, it is out there. So if you'll ever see something suspicious, please do let us know. Additionally, I know it's not warmer, but I did find that we have some speed trailers in our office for those who want to report traffic complaints speeding in the area. You may see me on Long Meadow and Skyline, so be careful. Don't get any ideas. However, I will leave some cards here if you wish to report any traffic complaints, or you can see me after the meeting. I don't know if this is the time for questions, or we can do that afterwards. Or...
Any questions?
Just how long is the cadet program?
So as of right now, there is no set finish time. Like for example, myself, I'm 21, I'm going to finish college soon. I think it's mainly for those that when they're eligible to move on, whether that be with the sheriff's office or be at a different police department, then that's their graduation essentially. Is when they'll be hired with either the sheriff's office or another police department.
Okay,
Any other
wonderful.
questions, concerns?
No, thank you. Thank you all for being here. Thank you. King County Board, usually Member Cayos is here. I don't know, Mr. Sanchez, if you would like to give the report for King County or any updates. I know you have
Mr.
to.
Guys is still getting over a pretty gnarly bug, it sounds like. He said there really wasn't much to update of interest in the township.
Okay.
Somewhat related to mental health, there is a new behavioral health 360 website that has been launched by the Kane County Health Department. So that is something that we'll be promoting more through the mental health board and other channels, but something good to be aware of. So that's it.
Okay. Very good, thank you. Our road district, our highway commissioner is actually down in Peoria on mandatory training that's required. So he did give a report that you all have, and one of the important things is we had some concerns on Miller Road there. IDOT was not able to come through, but we added a stop sign in our right of way. So there's some positive action handled there. So thank you to our highway commissioner for that report. We do have our assessor here, if you'd come to the podium, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks.
Good evening, everybody. Not a lot going on in the field right now. It's pretty cold out there. But we are preparing for the year coming ahead. We're speaking with our vendor right now, our assessing software vendor. We're getting some input. We have 24,000 parcels in the township, and through our hearing process, our data collection, our permit process, our assessing process, we collect data items like permits, pictures of properties, various information, and it's electronically captured. And we have about 300,000 of those items. When we started out doing this project, or when I came on board with PAMS, or the assessing office working with PAMS, our software, we categorized it a certain way, not thinking totally down the road of 300,000 data items. It's getting cumbersome, and we have to reconfigure and move data around. And for instance, like on commercial property, you get an appeal, we pull the screen up. We have to change screens. We have so many data items. We have to combine it and condense it, and we are working on that with the vendor. So it's a pretty mighty task, but we should get through that this spring, hopefully. That's our major thing we're working on right now. We've also reconfigured our office downstairs. It's just for the betterment of the flow of the office. You're welcome to come down and have a look at it. I'll just leave it at that. It works very well. It wasn't quite planned for. There is money in contingency that should cover that. So
Very good.
let's leave it at that.
All right, any questions for Assessor Violek? No? All right, thank you so much.
Just one.
Oh, sorry.
How much more property did Dundee get in the last year of our assessed value? I'll call you. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Well, I'm trying to think.
Dollars wise, or you mean like number of properties?
The value, the dollar value of the increased assessed
I haven't
value.
heard those numbers in a while. I'll say 30 to 50 million, something like that.
I'll just tell you. I'm sorry, Mike. I didn't mean to put you on the spot at all. I'm just.
It is shifting dramatically. After this year, it's going to shift completely to residential. There's barely any commercial coming online.
Okay.
So it'll be all the stuff you see on Huntley, West Dundee, and that. There's about 300 new homes, or new individual townhomes, houses. Industrial is drying up. That's how it is.
And East Dundee approved that project for Hager. When do you see that going forward, or when that'll come online?
What is the project?
Well, so it's residential, but it's apartments.
It's apartments.
But I think it's like in the early stages of planning. I think they approved an agreement to work with a developer but I think it's several years just because of the site itself, and having to tear down. So probably a
I
few
think they're
years.
dedicating it as a TIF district too, so.
So we'll get notice of that,
It's
and we'll.
residential. They're going to do a TIF district. Seriously.
Yes, and I did bring that up at the meeting a few weeks ago because obviously that impacts us because there'll be families living there, right? That might need some township services. So we'll see. It's not finalized yet though. So
It's bugging me. I have not driven by it since the fire. Has anybody else?
I didn't know.
It's boarded up.
Yeah, it doesn't look great, but
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's an old building.
I mean, it was a big fire. They called in everybody.
Oh, I didn't know they had a fire.
I was out of town when I heard about it, so.
I didn't know.
It doesn't look terrible. I mean, it looks.
It's boarded up.
It's not an attractive place, but it looks like what it is.
Yeah.
An old factory type thing,
Yeah.
but it's boarded up and it's not. It doesn't look like a junkyard or something.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. All right. Director Meyer, would you be able to come up to the podium to give us a quick update on open space, and then we'll have you go right into assistant/write-in cane as well.
All right, so to finish up this fiscal year's special projects, we've contracted to have dead trees cleaned up near Village Green. In between the Park District Diving Well parking lot and Village Green, there's been a section of woods that's really been run down for a long time, and so now the residents who face those woods are happy that it's all nice and cleaned up. And we contracted some cedar tree removal at the Prairie at Raceway Woods. And we're still working on getting the contract work done at Library Springs for smoothing out the rock piles. And the two maps we're working on, the digital maps for our website for Raceway Woods and Dixie, we're still working on the edits for that. And then soon it'll be our new fiscal year, and those special projects will be getting digital maps for Library Springs and Jelke, and contracted follow-up work at Salamander Springs, Helm Woods and Prairie, and Dixie. But Dixie's contracted work will coincide with a grant that Friends of Dundee Natural Areas is helping us with, that we're gonna apply for the ComEd Green Energy grant again, and that's a matching grant. So Friends of Dundee Natural Areas said they'll pitch in $6,500 if the township pitches in $4,000, and we were going to anyway, so it just works. So together we'll get $20,000 worth of work done if we get approved for that grant. And then we plan on having some leftover funds for the stream restoration projects we're focusing on, hoping later in the year to maybe get some big grants to get rolling on those projects. That's Cottonwood Creek at Dixie, and that's Shaw Creek at Shaw Woods. And also, Friends of Dundee Natural Areas is donating funds for contracted invasive work at Dixie near the Eastmore and Winfield entrances. So a lot of stuff is being done with open space. We'll move over to social services. Right now, we have no general assistance clients. And in the last month, we've helped prevent 2 evictions in the township. Habitat for Humanity contacted us. They have a couple great programs for our residents. One is specifically targeted for seniors, and they're both for low-income families who need critical home repairs that they cannot afford. They are willing to go up to $50,000 to $60,000 in repairs. That could be a water heater's out, a hole in the roof, a senior needs a handicap accessible ramp. So we are very happy they came to us with that because we always get calls for residents needing help. Any questions?
And there's some information, so if you know of any residents, there's some info on it in your packet, and I put out some applications for that program right outside our door today. So they really are looking for residents and applicants is the need, so which is great.
Easiest thing is if you know someone who needs that,
let us know.
have them contact our office.
Yes, thank you. Perfect, thank you. All right, our mental health board, if Administrator Sanchez can.
You have a copy of the monthly report in front of you, so I'll just hit the highlights. All the work plans are completed for this year's grant program. There is one still outstanding for matters recovery. They actually reduced their original request from $60,000 to $12,500. It's the first time we've seen a reduction in a request, but it happens. So that's in the books now, and everybody's going to be sending in their invoices going forward. We are also recording our meetings following the process established by the township, so we thank you for that. Now we have a better ability to reach the public and let people see, what the board is up to. And our annual planning process is underway. We're going to be covering that at our March meeting. Board members are sending in their feedback and ideas in the meantime, so hopefully we can have a robust but not lengthy, overly lengthy discussion. It's always nice to kind of get in and out. And I did mention the Behavioral Health 360 from the health department. It's a new website. So I'll send a link to the board. You guys can check that out. There was a presentation given on it this morning, Kane County's Public Health Committee. So with that, I can take any questions.
Just a question on the Mather Recovery Program. That's the one is that the Crystal Lake program?
Yeah.
And then they're getting funding from Kane County also in addition to it?
They have multiple.
Are they going to separate out the numbers for reporting based on Kane County versus Dundee Township?
Well, yeah, they can't get money for the same services from 2 different sources.
Okay.
But the program they have with us is different than what they're doing with Kane County. It's much more reduced, and it has more to do with some of the communication aspects and education, marketing type things.
Okay.
Just a quick question. I did meet with 2 residents over the past month who they had several concerns, but one of their main concerns was the mental health board and the funding. They believe that we're not doing the will of the voters when it comes specifically to the funding amount and the support that we're giving. And so I feel very proud of the work that this board has done, and the mental health board, of course, and President Avalar over the past few years, that we've been able to serve almost 1,000 residents and that we're at a good level. We know this board is still growing and we're still trying to figure it out. But I just wondered if you could speak to, I guess, the funding and, those concerns. And again, I explained to both those residents, kind of where we were, and that certainly we can grow in the future, but this is where we are right now. But I just want to make sure everyone knows. And so I do have a follow-up question after that.
Well, I guess I could say, the original referendum allows for up to 0.15% of the total levy. I'm not aware of any mental health boards that go that high. Most are pretty close to where we're at, I would say. At least the ones that go through the property tax levy. We have some that go through sales tax. That's a different animal altogether. But I guess I would say, where we're at now, I can give a couple examples. My experience at Kane County working with the ARPA program, that's the COVID money that came in, is $103 million. And our first effort was to get $4 million out for a community support grant program. It was just it was supposed to be quick money. Get it to the mental health providers, the food pantries, and the homeless shelters. It took a long time to get just that $4 million going, let alone to finish it. It took about 2 years to get all the money sent to the organizations. But just creating the back end system to hand out $4 million took about a year. So it wasn't as easy of a process. Even though we had $100 million, it didn't make it go any more quickly because of that. I know Will County recently, they had a $10 million levy, I believe, last year, and they are seeing the same thing. It takes time to build the system, so they asked for less money this year. I think we are in a capacity building mode right now, so we're at $500,000. We didn't max out the amount allocated for a grant program this year. I know the original levy was about $1.5 million, came down to $500,000. The demand we were seeing isn't there as much because insurance is now covering mental health. And we got that direct information from our biggest provider, which is Family Service Association of Elgin, and they service the most residents of Dundee Township, and they said, we saw a big drop off occur once that law took place, was enacted, and then this year they asked for less money for the same services, for the same program than they did last year. So there is a bit of a changing landscape that we're trying to navigate. I think if we were to go too far, we would just have more money sitting in a fund balance, which we already have. So right now, we've got about $340,000 allocated and about $300,000 that's excess. That's in a fund balance that we're working on the programming, moving towards spending that money. So if we were to have another $1 million, it wouldn't really speed things up, so to say. It would just mean we have more money sitting, and now you have the potential of people bringing tax objections and things like that because you have too much money. So we're not planning on building any buildings. That would be a different story. Then we could levy higher, put it in a capital fund, and that would make more sense. But that's not where the board is at right now. So I think does that answer?
Yeah, and I just,
picture?
yes, definitely does. And just again, as a reminder to this board, we can go up and down as needed because PTAL doesn't apply anymore. So if we need to go a little lower or higher or much higher, we have that, which is great flexibility for us. But just again, I just want to be clear that if this board said, and the mental health board said, we want to do the full max, we want to do the will of the voters, which was for the full, you're basically saying you would not be able to spend it this year.
Yeah,
in the
well,
future,
I
absolutely.
would say that the will of the voters is to max it out. The will of the voters is to say, hey, you can go up to that amount, but find out what is needed. Address the actual needs, unless we're going to build buildings and hire staff and things like that.
Okay.
And I did, in preparation for the tax levy vote that you guys passed with the $500,000 again, we could have gone lower because we do have a fund balance. But I gave you all that 3-year projection that shows, at the current rate of $500,000, assuming some of the programming ideas that we're going after come into fruition, we'll run into a situation in 2 years where we'll have insufficient funds early in the fiscal year. So, and that's just based on projections. We're not there yet, but that's kind of where we see what we're growing into. Again, that capacity building. So, we'll see where we're at this time next year. When it comes time to talk about budget and stuff.
All right, any other questions? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just a quick update from our cemetery. As you know, the Columbaria was a project for this fiscal year. It's a little bit delayed, so it may not be in the next 2 weeks, but they expect it sometime in early March. We have one more payment, so I'll work with the accountant to see how do we adjust for that in our budget. So a $30,000 payment for that final payment, but the Columbaria will be in 2025, which is good. Attorney Kimsey, any report tonight?
Nothing at this time.
All right, Clerk Shepherd, any report tonight? No. Okay, Trustee Schaefer?
Nothing additional.
Okay, Trustee Harney?
No.
All right, Trustee Romano?
No.
Okay, Trustee Aaron's?
No.
Okay, just a quick couple notes from my office. I get so excited every month, but I did get, for my grant coordinator for the $500,000 state grant. I'm still hoping it will come in the next 2 weeks, but it will, yeah. I had the final signature on our end, and so it just needs the director's signature. So once I get that executed contract, I'll send it out to everybody, but then that means hopefully the check is behind. Again, it's up to the state, but I did just on Tuesday receive that. So that would be great news. Again, if it doesn't hit this fiscal year, then hopefully next. So that would be nice. And also just an event that's coming up that all of the trustees and elected officials are invited, and Dave is, our highway commissioner is volunteered to drive in the St. Patrick's Day Parade. It's on the 15th of March. If anybody is available, any elected officials are available at 11 a.m. to represent Dundee Township. We'll ask staff if they want to ride as well. So that's happening in just a few weeks. And again, we'll be with the road district on that. So those are all the updates I have, and that concludes our report. We'll move on. I need a motion and a second to approve the January 15th, 2025 Board of Trustees regular meeting minutes.
So moved.
A motion by trustee Schaefer and a second.
Second.
Second by trustee Aaron's. Any updates? I know we had a few edits from the office and we got those over to the clerk. Any other updates or questions? All right. All in favor to approve the minutes? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? None? All right. Passes. Thank you. And now I'll do a motion and a second to approve the treasurer's report, and then we'll bring our accountant Tom up. So a motion and a second. A motion by trustee Harney and a second.
Second.
Second by trustee Romano. Okay, accountant Tom, thank you.
All right, so we're 11 months into the fiscal year, one to go. On the revenue side, the total revenue is about $4.2 million in total.
Page, buddy.
Page 2, I think.
Page 2, okay.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So that's 89% of the total budgeted revenue. We'll see it tick up a little bit in February, maybe from interest and some charges for services. We're pretty much tapped out. We've received all the property taxes. Any remaining was just those the budgeted revenue for the cemetery fence and other grants like that. So the revenue side's looking good. On the expense side, about $2.9 million in total operating expenses. That's 63% of the budget. Same thing, we know it's a little bit lower than we'd expect for capital projects that haven't occurred between the cemetery, road and bridge, the excess there with the mental health. But so we're planning for that and kind of building in some transfers over to capital and next year's budget to kind of bring down some of those fund balances and kind of allocate them a little bit better across the board. But overall, for this fiscal year, we're sitting at a surplus of just over $1.3 million with 1 month to go. Given our average operating expense per month, we'll probably see that come down about $250,000. So we should finish the year just a little bit north of $1 million. But currently showing a fund balance of $5,356,170 in total. If we flip 2 pages to the page with the pie graph at the bottom. Just another look at our various bank accounts and investments there, totaling just over $5.4 million in total, which ties nicely with our fund balance. Any questions?
Okay, so just for quick discussion, I wanted to go over our fund balance because it is going to come into play when we look at our updated budget, down the agenda here next. So across all funds, I think Tom said we'll end up at about $1 million surplus for fiscal year 25. And so again, there's been some concerned residents that have asked, oh my gosh, why are you not putting that money towards services or towards programs or towards special projects? And I just, again, when we're looking at these, I know there's a lot of data there. Almost 675,000 of that is actually road and bridge, which this board does not have the authority to spend. Another 350,000 of that is mental health board, which we also cannot spend unless it's for mental health, right? We're trying to spend that. We want to spend it. We want, more services to be provided. So there's no disagreement there. But again, of that 1 million, you got 675 plus 350, that eats up quite a bit of it. So, there is, over the years, we've done well on interest, right? So we thought, we were going to have 30,000 of interest. We have 80. So we have some, what I call project money that we want to talk about when we get to the budget. that we probably want to allocate towards capital. It's a professional accounting recommendation that we always have at least 50% or 6 months of our non-capital operating expenses on hand. We can go up to 2.5%, so 2.5 years worth. It will be up to this board again to decide what are we comfortable with. Do you want the minimum of 6 months, which we have? I think we have about 12. Is 9 comfortable? It's really just how, when you budget at your home, what do you feel comfortable with that emergency fund or that long-term savings? And then when you have savings, you don't do huge projects every year. You have to save up for them. So we are in a good place where we can start to do that. And so if we want to start spending down some of that reserves, we can put that in our budget. So if we want to do a fence at the West Cemetery, we want to do an open space project. I know the assessor needs a new vehicle. So, these type of projects, we want to make sure that we've built and kind of transfer and allocate that money over the excess funds. And so again, this board, if we did maybe a strategic planning late spring, early summer to determine what those priorities are over the next few years, I think that would be something that we haven't had the luxury, quite honestly, of doing in a long time. So it's an exciting thing. It's a positive thing. But again, we want to come up with a capital replacement plan, essentially. We just haven't had that. So all positive news. For GA and Mental Health Board, if we don't increase that spending next year, we do want to look at actually lowering the levy, just because those tax objections were going to be over that 200% or wherever that number is. We know, we've talked with our legal team. We know that we have allocated and we have those grants. That's certainly a defense when you have to go and have the tax objection, but it's not a guarantee that we won't win or lose, essentially. So just have to be cognizant of that, yes?
Correct, and certainly no guarantee that there won't be an objection filed.
Right, regardless, even if we're, at 9 months. So I just wanted to make sure. Any questions about that? Again, we can get into that. And like I said, our accountant has kind of prepared that. So if we want to transfer that money to capital, we can. It doesn't mean, let's say a project falls through, we don't get matching grant funds, that sort of thing. It doesn't mean we have to spend it next year, but it's just kind of earmarking it, so to speak. Yes, that makes sense? Yeah, okay, good. All right, so we will take a roll call vote on the treasurer's report, please. Clerk Shepherd.
Trustee Schaefer?
Yes.
Trustee Hardy?
Yes.
Trustee Romano?
Yes.
Trustee Aaron's?
Yes.
Supervisor Fowler?
Yes, thank you. And now a motion and a second to audit and approve our bills. So a motion by Trustee Harney and a second by Trustee Schaefer. Thank you. Any questions on the bills? Richard, do you have a question? You're
No,
good?
I don't.
You're good?
No, thank you.
Okay. Okay, very good. Roll call vote, please. Clerk Shepherd.
Trustee Schaefer?
Yes.
Trustee Hardy?
Yes.
Trustee Romano?
Yes.
Trustee Aaron's?
Yes.
Supervisor Fowler?
Yes, thank you. All right, I had to bring Tom back up, but we're going to move on to old business. And in your packet, you'll see the certification of the publication for the Daily Herald ad that says, the public hearing will be at our March meeting. So we had to do that, 30 days in advance. So that's been done. So we will, hopefully everyone's going to be here for the March meeting, because that will be an important vote is to get that budget finalized. And so that's been noticed. And it is on our website as well as a hard copy here. But now we're going to move into the budget. So again, Tom, take us kind of what the differences are since our last month, because we didn't have those capital talks.
Sure, so the only change that I made since last month was just kind of looking at those fund balances across the board and seeing what we can do to kind of pull down those fund balance percentages so that we don't face any of those tax objections. So what I built in, at least on the town side, was budgeting a $300,000 transfer from the town fund into capital.
Which page are you on? Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yep. So kind of just to shift $300,000 from the town fund, where we may not need all those excess funds in the current year, the upcoming year. Shift those over to capital, like Supervisor Thrower said. Start to build a capital plan over the next few years. What projects do we want to build in? Well, we want to have that reserve kind of set aside and allocated so that we're prepared for those projects. Did the same thing with cemetery. We're seeing that fund balance climb a bit too high as well. So shifting $200,000 from the cemetery into that capital fund. The capital fund is commingled, so the supervisor's department, the assessor, open space, the cemetery, they can all use those funds. It would be at the board's discretion of what projects are approved for the upcoming years and then allocated respectively. I also, Road and Bridge, I believe we have had a tax objection within road district, so we shifted $250,000 from kind of that general road and bridge fund into their building and equipment. That acts as their capital fund just for the road district. So just, once again, just to kind of look at how we could rebalance the funds overall.
This packet, and then
to
it's
help with
by
planning for the
fund at
future.
the top, or on Road and Bridge.
Okay.
All right.
Did one of you say that the general assistance fund is getting too high?
Yes, and so the reason why, and I think it will balance out, is that we had the position unfilled twice within the
Okay.
past year, and so the salaries were a little bit low.
Okay.
But we were also talking is that we may be able to, well, I think we can, remember you wanted to bring a little over for Ride and Cane.
Uh-huh.
We can use some of those funds, if we're still a little heavy, we can use that to support some of the Ride and Cane, which I think would be a wonderful use if you're okay with that.
Oh, that would be great.
Okay, good.
Yeah, obviously.
Because they changed the law. I thought it was a couple of years. It was just this past year that allows us to use it with some more flexibility.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with GA and mental health board, at least with mental health board, we're kind of at the we're calling it grant spending. So there's no big capital projects that we can save for unless you all mark it. That's another plan. On the GA side, there's really no capital projects per se. So we're either going to need to find other programs that can maybe use those funds, or then we look at the tax levy and see how
I was gonna
how
say.
we pull it
Yeah,
back.
and
Maybe
to
levy
balance.
less next year.
Yes. The thing that's weird about GA, though, as you know, we don't know if we're going to have one GA resident or we're going to have 10 or 100, and it kind of depends on the economy. And there's so many interesting things. And we definitely in the past couple of years have seen an increase in the evictions. Like that was our need. And so remember, we shifted some of those dollars over. So we may want to put some of the GA towards EA again, and so we'll see how we turn out. We have one more month. It was a quieter month, but I mean, certainly it was pretty fast and furious for several months there. So I think we can find. I feel like we can find stuff for sure for that it shouldn't be an issue. But I don't know. I'm all for lowering taxes, but also GA is just such a tricky thing to budget for, right? And
Yeah.
we just don't know what's going to happen with the
But we can
economy.
always transfer money in. It's just that we can't transfer.
Exactly.
Oh,
we can-
okay.
Yeah.
So if we lower the
If we
GA
lower the levy.
but put it over
Put it
towards
something. And
in
with
the town fund, we can move it. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
It
Oh,
can- it can
that's
go one way, it can go from town to
Yeah.
GA, it cannot go from
It can't
GA
go
to
from
okay.
GA,
That's
yeah.
perfect then.
Exactly.
Okay.
Still my point out.
She's been doing this a long time, so yeah. Okay, that's great. That's good news. Okay, makes sense to me. So take this home. You have the digital version as well. Again, we'll do a final vote. The cemetery manager had a couple of tweaks. We talked about doing that west fence, which I think, we have dollars for. He's very interested in doing that, which I think would be great. So we'll see where we are. But yeah, if you have any questions between now and then, just email myself and I can get information from Tom. Trustee Schaefer, any
I was just gonna say,
questions?
For the road and bridge,
Yes.
I know that they have a fairly high level right now, but they have the Bonkoski Bridge
Correct,
program that
which
needs
is
to
a
go in, and
huge
I think
dollar
that's $1 million,
price.
but
Yeah.
hopefully it's going to be funded fairly well with grants from state and federal government.
Correct. Yeah, it will definitely take a combination, but I know that he's building towards that for sure.
Save enough for that.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Very good. All right, we don't have any new business tonight, but then I'm going to go ahead and move that the board adjourn to executive session pursuant to Section 2C1 of the Open Meetings Act in order to consider the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the township, and Section 2C11 of the Open Meetings Act to consider litigation against, affecting, or on behalf of the township. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Oh, second by Trustee Romano. And roll call vote, Clerk Shepherd?
Trustee Schaefer?
Yes.
Trustee Honey?
Yes.
Trustee Romano?
Yes.
Trustee Aaron's?
Trustee Aaron's, are you don't want to go into executive? You can vote no, it's okay. You're going, so. Okay, yes. Yes, thank you.
He's along for the ride.
And it is 7:41 p.m. And we will not be voting on anything when we come back, so thank y'all for attending. I'll call the meeting back to order at 7:59 p.m. And can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
And a second by Trustee Romano. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.